Hey everyone. So today is going to be part two of the Armenian Azeri conflict, which has appeared to have, for now, ended with Russian peacekeepers moving into the area of Nagorno-Karabakh, primarily around Susha and the capital, Iskandi. Um, it was a bloody campaign with tremendous amounts of casualties on both sides. The initial push by Azerbaijan was in the north and to the south, but the primary axis of advance was in the south here until they reached the Armenian border. And then they pushed north with the primary goal of capturing Susha. I was very surprised to see that Susha was actually captured. Susha is an ancient fortified town. It sets on a very steep mesa, as you can see, with two accesses into the actual town itself, here and then here. And it's the whole thing is again sits on a high elevation mesa overlooking the surrounding countryside. But the Azeris did it, and they captured this town, and then they started to threaten the capital here. One of the main features of the conflict that I would had to assume the Armenians knew that they were going to face was the Turkish drones and their man-made missiles, which were tremendously effective and resulted in heavy casualties on the Armenian side. The Armenians were predominantly armed with Soviet-era equipment and some newer Russian stuff, but mostly older Russian stuff. But at the same time, the Russian air defense systems were completely ineffective in stopping these drones. We know that there is a Russian motorized brigade reinforced here with air defense systems that I would have assumed could have been pushed and probably were pushed into Nagorno-Karabakh, but we have seen time and time again that they were just ineffective. You could clearly see that these systems were on and operating, and the man-made missile destroyed these air defense systems. That's not supposed to happen, but it did. Could have the Armenians won this? I believe so. I think that they would have needed to expand the conflict outside of Nagorno-Karabakh. I think they would have needed to try to fully mobilize, and once they were fully mobilized, 150,000 personnel, launched a winter campaign into the Nakhchivan enclave. And at the same time, launch operations along the actual Armenian-Azeri border here. I think anything can be reversed. Yes, the Azeris had taken Susa, but that doesn't mean they could also lose Susha as well. I think it was more of a political decision on the part of the Armenian leadership to basically stop fighting, possibly on the side of the military command staff as well, because we know that they were, well, at least in terms of Nagorno-Karabakh, the defense force there was being, its leadership was being targeted by these drones. So that leads us to believe that there was probably a lot more Turkish support than what appeared on the surface. We know that the F-16s were operating over Azerbaijan with its sensing systems and lightning pods that these things carry. And at the same time, Turkish satellites were probably active among systems, probably not talked about much. And then Turkish special forces were most definitely being used in tandem with some of its Syrian allies that had been flown into Azerbaijan to undertake a campaign as well. So as it sits, it looks like the Armenians has capitulated with roughly this area here under the occupation, or depending on where you sit on the side of the political equation, the retaking of territory that was occupied. Kind of apolitical on this. I understand both sides of the equation, very sensitive, but that's kind of where it stands right now. Again, I think, as winter would have set in, the Armenians could have continued to press this, and it would have started to hamper the supply routes coming into these mountainous areas, especially if the Armenians started to fight a guerrilla campaign, especially in these mountains. But I think it would have taken some assistance from its Russian allies to find a way to bring down these drones and to negate that threat. And I'm very surprised, considering the Russians and the Armenians are very close allies, that the Russians did not do more to assist their allies in helping them overcome this drone problem. And at the same time, I think it's definitely opened the eyes of the Russians, because guess who else has these Turkish drones now? Yep, the Ukrainians. They have the same drone with the same Mammal missile that was used to great effect in Nagorno-Karabakh that could possibly operate over the Donbass regions here. So it'll be interesting to see what the Russians do to negate these drone threats. It'll be interesting to see what the Armenians do, because this isn't over. It's kind of just been put on the burner now with peacekeepers kind of watching over things in this area, but there's still a lot of areas that are occupied in this area by the Armenians. So we'll see how this pans out. I suspect it's not over with yet. I suspect there's going to be some internal strife within Armenia itself, because a lot of the peoples of Armenia simply do not agree with the stopping of the conflict. But I can definitely empathize that it was becoming very difficult, especially with the level of NATO technology that was being used against them in Nagorno-Karabakh, especially with the drones. It was just horrific, especially some of the videos that I've seen of the gun camera videos of the missile strikes, and there were just dozens and dozens and dozens of them that killed many Armenians. But we'll stand by and continue to watch this and see what happens. See you guys.